President Trump blows up a boat full of Venezuelan drug runners. The Burning Man orgy dome collapses. And Democrat Jasmine Crockett adopts a new Ebonics accent. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. I really hope none of the listeners were in the orgy dome when it collapsed. If you happened to be at that modern bacchanal, Burning Man, reenacting the Israelites in the desert with the golden calf. We'll get to that in a moment. First, I want to tell you, and what a timely advertisement this is, I want to tell you about Birch Gold. Text Knowles to 989898. Anyone read the news yesterday? When it comes to, say, the price of gold, which hit all-time highs. And you know me, I'm a little bit of a gold bug. I have a decent amount of gold in my portfolio. And some of my friends have been selling gold. I'm saying, I'm just going to hold. And now gold is $3,500 an ounce. And because of the signals that come from the gold price, who knows? Who knows where it can go? When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think, maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, maybe just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit now. Text Knowles, Canada, WLAS to 989898. Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you are still eligible for the rebate in free metals up to $10,000. Join their tens of thousands of happy customers right now. $10,000. A rebate of $10,000 when you buy by September 30th. Text Knowles to 989898. Claim your eligibility today. Text Knowles to 989898. Okay, actually the biggest story I want to get to, but there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about today. So many very, very good stories. But my favorite one of all is from Jasmine Crockett. You know Jasmine Crockett, she's the new AOC. She's the new young Congress lady, Democrat, edgy, throwing haymakers. She's young, she's hip, she's cool. Well, Jasmine Crockett, if you haven't heard of her before, she, as of 2 weeks ago, in an interview on CBS News Texas, she sounded like this.
Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas, thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
You bet. So let's talk about this redistricting battle here in Texas that has certainly reverberated across the country. How do you see this shaking out?
I think that you're going to see Texas ram it through because that's what Texas does. With no input whatsoever from the members. And when I say the members, I mean even the Republican members. This map was not created by the Republicans in the House. And so this is a map that was sent down from up in D.C. somewhere. And so I think that that map is going to pass. I think that they are overplaying their hand. I don't think that they're actually going to win 5 seats.
Okay, blah, 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 whatever. It doesn't actually matter what she's talking about. Just, you heard how she was speaking. Pretty articulate. Not totally the received pronunciation of the King's English, but she's just talking like a normal person. She's talking like you. She's talking like me. She's just speaking normally. Yesterday, Jasmine Crockett went viral for speaking a little differently.
Maybe because these people, they are crazy because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you. And the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in the divorce. I'm like, ooh, that's got to be true because your lawyer would know that they going to lose it if they...
This is just the scene from Airplane. You know the scene from Airplane where the guys are talking jive and then the white lady walks up and she has to translate the jive from like normal talk to jive talk. That's just what Jasmine Crockett did. And she's playing all the parts. Well, yes, the Republicans are redistricting, and I find that really, really abhorrent, and we are going to work very hard to stop that and impede their progress. Mm-hmm, you know what I was talking about, Jive Turkey? Mm-hmm, that's right. You see, in the first one, she sounds like a legislator, and in the second clip, she sounds like she's auditioning for Tyler Perry's Big Medea's House 15. Also to play all of the parts, I guess. This is really, really silly. Really silly. And yet, everybody is making fun of her. And just like they all would make fun of Hillary Clinton, when Hillary Clinton would go out and talk like a regular Methodist Wesleyan graduate one day and then go out and say, I don't feel no ways tired. I've come too far. I've been to the mountaintop when she's speaking to a black audience. And people would make fun of her and say she was code switching. This is one of the chief skills of a politician. I hate to defend Jasmine Crockett here, and I'll make fun of her again in a second, but on this point at least, what Jasmine Crockett is doing is just a clunky, exaggerated version of her job, of what a politician is supposed to do. What a politician is supposed to do is be able to speak to disparate groups and bring them together to form a coalition to gain political power and then effect political change. That's what a politician does, especially in a democratic country. So she does that. Trump does that too. The difference is Trump is much less clunky about it and seems much more authentic because he doesn't literally change his voice. Trump can go in and speak to a room of billionaire, multi-billionaire industrialists. He can go speak to a room of like wacko, weirdo Silicon Valley tech zillionaires, and he can also go speak to a bunch of construction workers and blue-collar workers and people who've been out of work for a long time. And he can speak to all of them using the same voice, the total, regular, normal Donald Trump voice, but he is appealing to them in different ways by offering different policies, by giving different rationale for his policies. So he's just a lot better at it. But what he's doing is basically what Jasmine Crockett does too. All of that said, this is degrading. We look at this kind of thing, we say, man, this is really degrading for our country. Because it's not even just that she's changing her accent, she's changing the way that she uses the English language. Meaning she says, I is talking about, and they is saying, and it's this degraded patois, this contrived patois Creole type language that just isn't, is just simply wrong. It's just simply incorrect. And it's a kind of a sign of the times because in a country such as ours, one of the fears of the framers of the Constitution is that we would degrade from being a united country, albeit with diverse localities, into just an assemblage of factions, each vying for their own interests that can barely speak to one another with no concern for the common good, merely interested in their own selfish desires. And that is reflected in the language. If we don't have a common language, if we don't commonly know how to make nouns and verbs agree, then we're in a really bad spot because we can't speak to each other. And if you can't speak to each other in a self-government, then you can't persuade one another. And if you can't persuade one another, then you can't actually govern. And it's almost worse with Jasmine Crockett because she knows that the phrase they is not correct, but she's choosing to say it anyway, which is really bad. It's a kind of, it's not just even a natural degradation that comes with taking democratization to its extreme. It's intentional. It's contrived. It's really, really bad. So then combine those two thoughts. This is the job of a politician. This is really degrading. What is the inescapable conclusion? The inescapable conclusion is that something has happened to our political order that has allowed it to degrade. And the reality is, if you can't use the English language even somewhat properly, I'm not saying you don't get a word wrong every day, but if you don't have a grasp on the English language, you should not be involved in government. You shouldn't vote. They always say you have to all vote. Everyone needs to vote. The most important thing is that everyone vote. Not really. If you don't know anything, if you're not capable of even the most basic competencies that would be expected of an adult, then you shouldn't vote. It's okay. Not everyone has to vote. Kids don't vote. Non-citizens don't vote. Not everyone has to vote. But you should not. But if we are simultaneously demanding this mass democratization to the point that people like Nancy Pelosi want to lower the voting age, so lower the voting age to 16, then you're going to get to a spot where, in order to appeal to the greater number of people who have been brought into constant active participation in the democracy, you're going to have to degrade everything. That was a fear. That was one of the fears of the framers. That has been a fear of people in democratic governments forever. Not good. Everyone's making fun of this clip of Jasmine Crockett because it kind of sounds like she's stupid or something. She doesn't know how to speak. It's worse. It's worse than that. She does know how to speak English. She can speak English in a perfectly normal way. She's choosing not to. She thinks it's to her political benefit not to. She might be right. That's much scarier. Okay. Speaking of people who don't speak English very well, a group of Venezuelan drug runners just got blown up, exploded off the face of the earth by President Trump. We'll get to that in one moment. First, though, when you want to power your military equipment to blow up terrorists, you're going to want some very strong fossil fuels. That's why I want to tell you about Chevron.
America is built on hard work and powered by American energy. Chevron has spent $44 billion with local businesses across all 50 states since 2022, fueling infrastructure and communities, all while strengthening local economies. Last year, Chevron increased U.S. production nearly 20%, powering communities and businesses. From the heartlands to the coasts, we're helping to fuel America's energy advantage, building a brighter future right here at home. Visit chevron.com/America to discover more.
Another clip that went viral, puts a little more of a smile on your face than Jasmine Crockett doing her best impression of speaking jive. There's a boat from Venezuela run by Tren de Aragua, a vicious, vicious gang now designated as a foreign terrorist organization. They're running drugs into America. And then you're looking at this boat through what looks like a military scope. It says unclassified at the top. And you say, well, hold on, what exactly? It doesn't look like an IMAX camera. What are we looking at here? And, there we go. There it is. Okay. If you're only listening to it now, it explodes. Then it catches fire, and then you see it start to sink. Trump then tweeted about this, and he said, earlier this morning, on my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a kinetic strike against positively identified Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of responsibility. Tren de Aragua is a designated foreign terrorist organization operating under the control of the Nicolas Maduro, leader of Venezuela, responsible for mass murder, drug trafficking, sex trafficking, and acts of violence and terror across the United States and Western Hemisphere. The strike occurred while the terrorists were at sea in international waters, transporting illegal narcotics heading to the United States. The strike resulted in 11 terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Please let this serve as a notice to anybody even thinking about bringing drugs into the United States of America. All caps, beware. Thank you for your attention to this matter, followed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 exclamation points. That's emphatic. This is really good stuff. One, you have 75,000 to 100,000 Americans poisoned every year by fentanyl, just by fentanyl. We're not talking about any of the other drugs. This is a foreign terrorist organization. They smuggle people, they rape people, they kill people, everything Trump said. These are bad hombres. And they were headed to the United States to do more damage to the American people. So it is very, very good that President Trump blew them up. It's also very, very good that President Trump aired this video and posted about it and put 11 exclamation points afterward just for emphasis, because of two things. It shows you what the U.S. military is for, and it shows you what military strikes themselves are for. It really all comes down to this question, what's it for? You know, we're so used to seeing these clips and even hearing, it's kind of jarring to hear this kind of language when it comes to drug runners in Latin America, because we only hear these phrases, kinetic strike, killed in action, terrorists. We think about jihadis when we hear those words. We think about people in the Middle East and we see videos from Afghanistan or Iraq or something. It's very jarring for us to see videos from Venezuela or from international waters headed to the United States. Wait, hold on. The U.S. military is conducting operations here in the Western Hemisphere. They're not supposed to be here. They're supposed to be on the other side of the world in some sandpit fighting wars of empire in the Middle East. What are they doing on our doorstep? Well, this is what the military is for. The U.S. military can do a lot of things, including secure the global order, even in places on the other side of the world. But what it's most immediately for, what it's most directly for, is protecting our country. If we are not protecting our country from the mass poisoning that groups like Tren de Aragua are bringing in, if we're not protecting the borders of our country, well, we're not protecting our country at all. That's the shift from Biden to Trump. That's the shift, actually, from our political order over the last quarter century to Trump, to this kind of new thing that we're in. Is we would always think about defending America just on the other side of the globe. Trump's saying, hey, how about we try to defend our country here first? I'm not saying we can't do it on the other side of the globe. Let's just figure out if we can have a border. Let's just maybe stop the mass poisoning of our people first, and then we'll go think about Iraq or whatever. So that's what the U.S. military is for. But Trump's post actually gets to an even deeper point about what military strikes are for, what war is for. Do you know what war is for? War is for peace. I know people are so used to reading some quotes from George Orwell that they think that sounds Orwellian. They think that sounds crazy to say that war is for peace. That is what war is for. When we talk about just war, there are just wars and unjust wars. To have a just war, part of having a just war is aiming at peace. It's not that no war is justified. That strike yesterday was definitely justified. But it has to be for peace, for order. And that's what I really love about him posting this. And the last line there, he goes, just take notice, everyone. We're going to do this to you. Hey, other Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists. Hey, MS-13. Hey, all these other guys right south of our border. We see you. We have giant drones everywhere. We see you. We can basically count the hairs on your head. And we're going to blow you off of the earth without any warning whatsoever, other than this Truth Social post. You are warned. That's very good, because that video alone will reduce the number of drugs and people who are being smuggled into the country. That video alone. I mean, you've seen it already to date, even before this video. The new migration into the United States, new illegal migration, has dropped essentially to zero. No new laws, none of the stuff Joe Biden and the Democrats were demanding. Trump just enforced the law. The illegals responded to incentives. Now they got a much bigger incentive. Don't come into the country and you won't get exploded, probably. Really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And I'd love to see the Democrats object to it. No, you can't deploy U.S. military resources to protect our country. No, you need to just send them to the other side of the world. No, you can't. No. You can't. How dare you blew up the poor Tren de Aragua narco-terrorists. Won't somebody please think of the narco-terrorists? Yeah, okay. Good luck. Good luck running with that one. Now, speaking of President Trump and death, President Trump yesterday addressed something that certainly should have been top of mind, namely his own death, which supposedly took place over the weekend.
Something completely different, but about a big viral social media trend over the weekend. How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead? You see that?
No.
People didn't see you for a couple days. 1.3 million user engagements as of Saturday morning about your demise.
Really? I didn't see that. I have heard, it's sort of crazy, but last week I did numerous news conferences, all successful. They went very well, like this is going very well. And then I didn't do any for 2 days, and they said, there must be something wrong with him. Biden wouldn't do them for months. You wouldn't see him. And nobody ever said there was ever anything wrong with him, and we know he wasn't in the greatest of shape. No, I heard that. I get reports. Now, you knew I did an interview that lasted for about an hour and a half with somebody, and everybody saw that was on one of your competitors.
Yeah. I'm not dead. Everybody says, I go away. I go make a sandwich. I go away for 1 hour. I go make a sandwich. Everyone says I'm dead. You've seen me more than my predecessor, and yeah, I'm alive. Of course. The guy, I have not been up close and personal with Trump often. I've been a supporter of his for a long time. I've watched him closely on TV, but I've been in the same room as that guy like 3 times or something ever, and I was really up close for the first time just a week or 2 ago. And it's so apparent he has much, much more energy than the people around him. Everyone knows, even his haters, if they're being honest, they know that. And back under Biden, even Biden's biggest supporters knew that this guy had pudding in his brains, okay, that this guy was just not there. The lights were on, but no one was home. And so Trump, he goes, oh yeah, well, I was surprised to read that I'm dead, but nope, still alive. Sorry. Sorry, you guys are wish casting. You tried to arrest me, it didn't work. You tried to kill me, that didn't work. You tried to investigate me, that didn't work. You raided my home, that didn't work. You accused me of collaborating with the KGB, that didn't work. None of it. So now you're just wish casting, wishing that I'm dead. Well, I'm not dead. Now, Trump said something even funnier over the past few days. This one, it actually didn't go as viral as I expected it to, but it's really, really funny. President Trump was doing an interview with the Daily Caller's Reagan Reese, and he was asked about the war in Gaza, and he did this compliment sandwich where he said, Israel's really great, and he ended it with Israel's really great. And in the middle, he said, Israel used to control our Congress. We'll get to that momentarily. First, I want to tell you about the latest Michael and. One of the latest Michael Ands is Michael and near-death experiences. What really happens when you die? Are near-death experiences just hallucinations, or are they glimpses of eternity? In this episode of Michael and, I sit down with the great Lee Strobel to explore this very question. Check out this teaser.
I was watching from the ceiling of the room in the hospital as they were trying to resuscitate my body. They were able to resuscitate her body. Her spirit returned to her body. And she said, by the way, see the ceiling fan? There's a sticker, a red sticker on the top of one of the blades. Sure enough, on the top of the blade, here's a sticker just as she described it. What do you do with that? That tells me that when the Bible talks about the fact that when we die, our spirit separates from our body, at least for some period of time, when a person is clinically dead, they're still conscious.
When you have these, not just near-death experiences, but even just broader numinous experience, you think you encounter an angel. What's it mean?
Michael, there is a certain percentage of people who go through a near-death experience who have a hellish experience.
What have you heard?
Watch full episode right now on the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. For the uncensored ad-free version, subscribe to DailyWire Plus. Speaking of holy things, we turn to the Holy Land because President Trump, he was doing an interview, great interview from Reagan Reese at the Daily Caller, and wide-ranging, really good questions, really good answers from Trump. And he had this to say, I'm going to read it verbatim. Israel is amazing because, I have good support from Israel. I have. Look, nobody has done more for Israel than I have, including the recent attacks on Iran, wiping that thing out. We, that plane, wiped them out like nobody ever saw before. We got back and CNN was trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't complete, and it turned out totally complete, beyond complete. So I'm just pause right there. In the very first part, he goes, I love Israel. Israel's great. I have great support from Israel. I've done more for Israel than anyone, including the attacks on Iran. So he's saying here, it's like, look, I love Israel. Israel loves me. Israel's so great. We attacked Iran for Israel. And he said, wait a second. I thought usually what they say is, this is totally for us and Israel might benefit, but it's totally for us. He's saying, no, Israel really wants us to. And look, the entire world benefits from Iran not getting a nuclear weapon. That is without question. It's not merely Israel that benefits from it. But Israel most immediately benefits from it because Israel is the sworn and immediate enemy of Iran, and Israel's a lot closer to Iran than the United States is. And that's apparently Trump's opinion. He goes, I've done so much for Israel, like that bomb strike on Iran. It was a great bomb strike. It worked out very well. The entire world benefited. It wasn't just Israel, but already he's opening that up. Okay. You're saying, hold on. He sounds like both the most pro-Israel and the most anti-Israel person. How is he managing both? He goes on. If you go back 20 years, I will tell you, Israel had the strongest lobby in Congress of anything or body, and of any company or corporation or state that I've seen. Israel was the strongest. Today, it doesn't have that strong a lobby. It's amazing. He goes, there is a time they had the strongest lobby of anyone, any company, any state, anything. But he keeps it going. There was a time where you couldn't speak bad. If you wanted to be a politician, you could not speak badly. But today, you have AOC +3 and you have all these lunatics and they've changed it. You're too young to know this, but if you go back 15 years, probably that's when it started, right? Israel, you would understand this very much. Israel was the strongest lobby I've ever seen. They had total control over Congress. And now they don't, I'm a little surprised to see that. And people, they forgot about October 7th. October 7th was a truly horrible day because I've seen the pictures. Wow. This is an amazing interview. And it's not even amazing because of what he's saying about the state of Israel. The state of Israel happens to be the subject of this amazing display of rhetorical and political skill, which is what I'm most interested in. I'm somewhat interested in the state of Israel and the Israel-Palestine conflict. I'm certainly interested in the Holy Land and the holy sites and American. I am somewhat, but to me, it's the skill of this whole thing. Because it's like, who said it? The most pro-Israel guy ever who has a town in Israel named after him, or the person who most hates Israel, or Greta Thunberg, or Hamas, or someone like that. He goes, Israel has total control over Congress. Who said it? Which one was it? Was that David Duke? Was that the head of the Klan? Or no, it was Trump, who has a town named after him in Israel. They had total control over Congress. And he says they don't anymore. This is the other. So on the one hand, he says, oh, yeah, Israel had an insane amount of control. They would fly all the politicians out to Israel. They would donate to their campaigns. And they don't anymore, which means that what the skill here is he can defang a political issue. He can cut to the heart of it. He can diffuse an explosive political issue. So now people take this very seriously. The Israeli influence in America. They take it, fair enough. I mean, you should be aware of all the lobbies on Capitol Hill. But what he says is, they had a lot of control, and now they really don't. So the people who have these really fantastical views of, the state of Israel just pulling the puppet strings on America and American democracy being a total illusion, whatever. He goes, no. They don't have that control anymore. Look at how public opinion has dropped. Look at how members of Congress have responded. You now have pretty overtly anti-Israel members of Congress, certainly on the Democrat side, where that's become more or less the mainstream position. Even on the Republican side, where support for Israel was even higher. He goes, they had it, but they don't anymore, which means that they don't have some kind of hegemonic lock on America, which means that the truly fanatical, frothing Israel haters, they weren't right. But also the people who say that Israel has no influence on American foreign policy, they're not right either, because the Israel lobby was really, really strong. And I love Israel, says Trump. And look, I love Israel. It's just an amazing dance. It is an amazing ability to cut through this issue, grant premises to two sides who seem totally opposed, even maintain support from your foreign ally Israel, while essentially threatening your foreign ally Israel and saying, you got to get with the program because support in America is totally dropping and Congress hates you and I'm the only one who's protecting you now, so do what I say. Whoa, man, that is skill. And in the context of what he is substantively saying, it's even more impressive, because what he's saying here is, 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't say anything negative about Israel. Yeah, this was the issue. And now, but don't worry. I'll help you. Don't worry, I'll protect you. But because I'm really popular and you're not popular anymore, and Congress hates your guts, and they're the bad cop. And I'm willing to say that you had a lot of influence. And hey, let's be cool. How about you trust your Papa Trump? That's what he's saying. It's really impressive. He has this ability. It's the ability of a diplomat. But with a little more thumos to it, a little more verve, a little more leadership. He has the ability to just diffuse that issue, cut to the heart of a political issue, establish a coalition, establish some consensus, and move forward. Incredible stuff. Now, speaking of control, there were 8 people killed in Chicago over the weekend. 8 people. Awful. 58 people were injured, were shot. in Chicago over the weekend. This is a major American city. Those numbers are way, way too high. So President Trump has announced from the Oval Office that he's going to Chicago.
The regular military, which we're willing to do, we have to. And after we do this, we'll go to another location and we'll make it safe also. We're going to make our country very safe. We're going to make our cities very, very safe. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago. Please.
So for those of you only listening, he's wearing a hat. It looks like a MAGA hat, but it says, Trump was right about everything. he's sitting, no tie. The vice president, no tie, sitting in the Oval Office wearing a red hat that says Trump was right about everything, saying that he's going to invade the city of Chicago because the women, everyone's begging, they're screaming for us to come in. Maybe it really is MAGA country. Maybe Jussie Smollett was right. They're screaming for it. And J.D. Vance in the back, yes, sir, of course they're screaming. They're screaming! Beautiful African-American women. And the person who's not laughing is the governor of Illinois, who is now opposing this and who is making an argument that it is going to persuade the Democrats and the libs and the squishes and the weaklings in the Republican Party. And it should not persuade them because Trump is showing you something, not just about how the political structure of the country works, from the federal government to the states to the localities. He's actually giving a lesson in morality. As you know, this year we're celebrating a decade of the Daily Wire, not by looking back, but by launching what's next. First up, Monday, for the first time in years, we're bringing in brand new Daily Wire talent with the premiere of The Isabel Brown Show. Next Wednesday night, the main event, Friendly Fire, all of us getting together to do what friends do, argue, debate, punch each other, maybe smoke a few Mayflower cigars. Do not miss the premiere, because inside Friendly Fire is where we're dropping the good stuff. New series, new projects, huge announcements, surprises we've been holding back until now. This is the start of our next decade. You do not want to miss a moment. Join us now, dailywire.com. My favorite comment yesterday. Okay, now I didn't pick this comment. I didn't pick it today. The producers picked it. We're going to see if I agree with it. It's from Hardboiled Entertainment. So apparently people think I'm dead. Paul McCartney, first time? Yeah, it's okay. It's okay, I get it, because they thought in the 60s, they thought Paul McCartney was, that's weak. It's kind of a weak comment. It's fine, it's innocuous, totally inoffensive, but not funny. It's not my favorite. Anyway, J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, had this to say to Trump's threat to go in and restore order to Chicago.
I refuse to play a reality game show with Donald Trump again. What I want are the federal dollars that have been promised to Illinois and Chicago for violence prevention programs that have proven to work. That is money that Illinois taxpayers send to the federal government, and it's an insult to any and every citizen to suggest that any governor should have to beg the president of any political party for resources owed their people. I'd like to ask a question of my own, and it's one the press should be asking as well. When did we become a country where it's okay for the U.S. president to insist on national television that a state should call him to beg for anything, especially something we don't want? Have we truly lost all sense of sanity in this nation, that we treat this as normal?
Okay, man, my first take is just, wow, man, this guy is so much more boring than Trump. He's so much more less compelling and persuasive. But, okay, that's the show business. I have that on the mind because of Jasmine Crockett's little dance routine from the top of the show. He then says, we send tax money to the federal government and we want to get it back on our terms, not on the federal government's terms. And that's our right or whatever. That's just ridiculous. That's not true. When you're demanding federal resources, you got to play ball with the federal government. Those aren't your dollars, actually. You've sent them to the federal government. And the states do get federal dollars in certain ways, but you have no right to that. So that's constitutionally illiterate. But let's get to the heart of the matter. He says, we don't want you to come in here and clean up Chicago. We don't want that. We don't want you here. And if we don't want it, that's that, and you can't do it because we don't want it, Dad. I don't want to eat my broccoli. Stop telling me to eat. I don't want to. Sometimes you got to eat your broccoli. And sometimes you got to listen to your father. Not on every matter all the time. There are limits on what your father can tell you to do. But a lot of the time, on important matters, you have to listen to your father and you have to eat your broccoli. And it doesn't matter whether you want to or not, you little child. What J.B. Pritzker is articulating is the consent-based morality, not just consent-based, the consent-exclusive morality, which says that good and bad, right and wrong is determined strictly by whether or not I want it. That's what the liberals believe. And what Trump is saying is, no. We can't have 58 people getting shot in a major American city over a single weekend. We can't have 8 people murdered in a single American city over the weekend. Not going to happen. We're going to restore order. I don't care what you want, J.B. Pritzker. I don't even care what you want, residents of Chicago. Now, Trump is couching his going into Chicago by saying, look, they're all begging for it. They want me to come. Beautiful black women want me to come to Chicago. They do. They beg. Yes, sir, Mr. President, they do. Yeah, they do. But that's a secondary point. It's not the consent. It's not the wishing that justifies the federal government coming in to restore order to Chicago. It's the murders. That's kind of like that Norm Macdonald bit about Bill Cosby. People say that Bill Cosby's hypocrisy was the worst part. I don't think that was the worst part. I think it was the raping. That was the worst part of what Bill Cosby did. Same here. It's not the consent. It's not the willing that justifies these kinds of actions. It's all the murders. There is a federal government for a reason. Federal government carries out a number of functions, and one of the functions of the federal government is filling in when the states cannot control their territories, and when the state is there for when the cities cannot control their territories. When the cities and states fail, as Governor Pritzker is pointing out, the federal government has not only a right, but a responsibility to intervene. And no one gives a damn what J.D. Pritzker thinks about it. If J.D. Pritzker, if his opinion really mattered, he would probably have done his job, huh? If J.D. Pritzker had the sort of judgment and opinion that mattered, he would be the sort of person who did his job. But because he failed, I especially don't care what he has to say about this. And Trump it would be easier if the Illinois authorities invited the federal government. It would just make it a little simpler. Trump said that in the cabinet meeting last week, but it doesn't really matter. Now, speaking of burning things down and liberal disorder, Burning Man has just concluded. You know Burning Man? I didn't realize how long Burning Man has been going on. Burning Man is when all these hippies go to the desert and do a bunch of drugs and have sex with each other for a few days in the end of summer. And then they light effigies on fire and engage in bizarre pagan rituals. So I thought this thing had been going on for, 20 years or something. It's been going on since 1986. The event brings some 70 to 80,000 people to the desert, and they all do stuff they shouldn't do. So something going viral out of I've never been, you'll be surprised to hear, is that the famous Orgy Dome, which is what it sounds like. It's just it's a dome they build in the desert, and then people go and have orgies in it. The Orgy Dome collapsed. The wind took it down. You can check it out in the Daily Mail or on TikTok. The Orgy Dome. The memories. They should substitute the song. It should be like, another turning point across. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, the sweet, sweet memories we made in the Orgy Dome. Anyway, a wonderful gust of wind took that one down. But the orgies were not the most depraved thing to take place. ABC News reports there is a homicide investigation going on. because Pershing County Sheriff's Office responded to reports on Saturday night of a man lying in a pool of blood. He is a deceased white adult male. While the effigy was burning and everyone was worshiping this bizarre burning idol, there was a guy lying in blood who is now investigating as having been murdered. What is Burning Man? I actually didn't know the answer to that. I mean, I know what it is because I can look at it, but I didn't know what they said it was, what the founders, what the party goers say it was. And they say that it is an event focused on community, art, self-expression, self-reliance. So they don't have big acts come. They try not to sell stuff. It's just this hippie commie thing where it's just all about us and all about our self-expression. And it's not about laws or the economy, or it's certainly not about morality. It's not about marriages. You can go with your wife to the orgy dome and pretend you're not married. It's just, this description is really perfect because it reminds you that Burning Man is not something new. It's not new in the sense that it's been going on since 1986, but it's not even new in 1986. All these, I've some millennial friends and associates who've been to Burning Man, and they all think it's this really new thing. Wow, we've just discovered something really cool, man. You're such a square, man. You're locked up in your rigid life. You don't understand what it's like to go to the desert and just go to the orgy dome and burn a giant, weird, demonic-looking effigy. And actually, this is the kind of thing that's been going on a lot longer than 1986. This is the kind of thing that's been going on since antiquity. This is exactly what every ancient pagan bacchanal was. This is exactly what the Israelites were doing in the desert with the golden calf. I know if the last time you read the story of the golden calf, Moses goes up the mountain and the Israelites just instantly start worshiping an idol. If the last time you read your Bible or heard this story was when you were a kid, you probably think that what they were doing was they built a golden idol and then they were just kind of bowing down in front of it or something. That's what I thought when I was a kid. That's not what they were doing. I don't know. Do you know what they were doing? Like weird sex stuff, and they were like doing weird, violent, gross, abusive things. And I don't know that they had any drugs, but if they had the kind of stuff that was furnishing Burning Man, I don't know, tabs of acid or whatever, they would have been doing that too. They were just doing Burning Man, okay? And we're worshiping an idol, like the people at Burning Man. It's called Burning Man. That's the idol they worship. They light a man on fire and they worship him. There's nothing new about that at all. This is what every crazy pagan festival has always been. And we've returned to that somewhat. And the people who go there are probably not the kind of people you want to emulate. And the society that leads to is probably not the society you want to live in. And if you want an alternative, as I think increasingly people do, then you got to turn away from the Burning Man. And you got to turn away even from the constituent parts of the Burning Man. The orgy tents and all the drugs and the communism and, most crucially, the self-expression. Because this is where it really comes home. Community art, self-expression, and self-reliance. Notice the only word that's repeated here is self. Self, self, self. I, me, mine. Me, doing whatever I want. Self, self, self. That's really what all pagan festivals come down to. Giving free rein to selfish desires rather than doing what you're supposed to do. And that's just liberalism. And it hasn't worked, and people are sick of it, and we need an alternative. And we need a few more gusts of wind to tear down the rest of the orgy domes. Okay, the rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.